That's Utica Club is the most popular beer here. Welcome everybody. It's our 4:05 session. For everybody attending here right now, Jen has went to get a case of beer just to say thank you, because safety, I guess, is not as cool as we all think it is, especially when it says saves you money. The title of our session right now is called Being Safe Saves Your Brewery Money. We have three presenters. The first is David Wallace from Gilroy, Kernan and Gilroy. He's a strategic business advisor. Next is Nick D'Onofrio from he's a compliance assistant specialist from Region 2 from the U.S. Department of Labor / OSHA, and then Michael Capelli from the U.S. Department of Labor, and he does the on-site consultation program, which I recently went through. So we'll let David, you're first.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Ready to go. Well, hello everybody. Thanks for coming to this wonderful session. Just a real quick introduction. I work with Gilroy, Kernan and Gilroy in Utica, New York, or New Hartford, New York. I've been in the insurance business really my entire professional working career. And over the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to develop programs for various industry groups. I did a lot with the dairy industry. I've done it for transportation companies. And actually, one of the first programs I did was for the Brewers Association in Boulder, Colorado. So I have had, some experience in the brewing industry as well. But about 5 years ago, I started to work with the New York State Brewers Association and realized that, insurance, is one of those things that a lot of people don't understand or don't really want to talk about. So the first thing I did was create a program, a workers' compensation program. And that is an excellent program, but what I found, there was a shortcoming in that it was really designed for the larger breweries. It was price competitive, you could earn a dividend based upon individual experience, but it didn't apply to everybody. So over the fall, when I started to attend the regional meetings, I found that we've got to do something so there's a program that every brewer can participate in. And since that time, I did a feasibility study using the data that was developed for the New York State Brewers Association, and I put together, with the help of the board of directors and the association, we have submitted and received approval to form our own safety group for the members of the association. So before I start just talking and even look at the slides, I better catch up with myself. So, what we have now is we formed a workers' compensation safety group. And really, it's safety and it saves you money. And that's what we want you to walk away with, is the understanding that this safety group is very cost competitive. And I think I can say pretty accurately that when you look at how workers' compensation is priced, you're not going to find a lower priced compensation product in this state. So what we're showing there is, that it truly is safety and a money saver. But when you look at workers' comp, does the system really work for you? Do you have the controls in place to really control the cost of your insurance? And does it really work? I mean, if a claim occurs, what can you do to manage those costs? And those are all things that are going to be built into our safety group. So when you look at this, you might say, well, okay, what is a safety group? Well, the safety group is a workers' compensation policy that provides individual coverage for your brewery, but it's aggregated with every member within the group. So your premiums are aggregated, the losses are aggregated, and if the program develops a profit, you are returned a dividend based upon that group experience. So it becomes a very unique way to provide your compensation insurance. So in the standard marketplace, you buy your individual coverage, you accept the pricing that's provided to you by your carrier, and that's the end of the story. So when you look at workers' compensation and how it's rated, as I've always said, there's really no mystery to it. because the rate, the loss rate, the rate that you pay for the brewery classification is set by the Workers' Compensation Insurance Board. Every insurance company in New York State, even the state insurance fund, uses that loss rate. But where the difference starts to come into play is your insurance carrier will file what is called a loss cost multiplier. They can change that rate based upon their premiums losses and their operating expense loads. So there's probably 150 insurance companies that file different LCMs in New York State. So they're all over the lot. And there's no consistency. There's no dominant workers' compensation carrier in New York State. So with that, it's like, okay, if we go to the state insurance fund, who offers a very competitive and low LCM. Matter of fact, they've given us pricing flexibility that I show on the slide. The standard marketplace, your developed rate would be $5.10, okay? That's average. Some may be a little higher, some may be a little lower. But through the safety group, you can see where our LCM is at a 105, and our rate will be 20% below what you're going to find in the standard marketplace. And actually that 105 that I'm showing up there is a very conservative rate because we actually have more underwriting flexibility in the pricing and can actually be as low as 0.91. But I thought starting at that lowest rate would be, it would look wrong to say that, hey, we can save you 35% on your workers' compensation rates, the price, premium, but that's true. So this is kind of the starting point, but we can actually drop below that. So when you actually look at the numbers, you know, the cost of the program is going to be very competitive. And here's one of the big differences. You know, why is the safety group more competitive? Number one is the state insurance fund wants to write your business. All the state insurance fund does is workers' compensation insurance. They don't do the property, the liability, the auto. So this is all that they do. And they are the largest writer of compensation business in New York State. So they want your business. The commercial marketplace is a little bit fickle. They may say they want it, but as you can see from that pricing slide, they're not going to be nearly as competitive as the state fund. The safety group allows us to aggregate or use an aggressive upfront credit. Qualifications into the safety group, does everybody qualify? The answer is no. You still have to have good loss experience, and if you don't have good experience, it doesn't mean we can't put you in the safety group. All it means is we can't apply those discounts that would be available to the companies that have good experience. But through the feasibility study that I've done, and the information on breweries, who their carrier is, their experience mod, it's public information. You know, I can look up a brewery. Matter of fact, I met with a couple of breweries today, and they say, well, show me what mine is, and I can go online and say, okay, you know, through the insurance department, this tells me your carrier history. I know who your carrier is. And by knowing who your carrier is, I know what their LCM is. And by knowing your experience mod, which is another website I can go to, and it shows you what your experience mod is, I can calculate a rate right on the site and say, okay, there it is. You're 25% lower than what you're paying right now. So there's really no mystery to it. And the other big advantage of this is that when you aggregate everybody together, a dividend will be paid based upon the profitability of the group. So in New York State, safety groups are not new. They've been around for 100 years. And they're very, you know, you see them mostly for various associations. I worked on one for the Dairy Association, the Cheese Association. I've done it for a milk hauler program in New York State. So these are very common. It's just that nobody's put one together for the Brewers Association. So in order to qualify for the dividend, or for the group to generate a dividend, we have to generate $500,000 in a premium pool in order to create that eligibility for a dividend. But through the studies I found, it's not going to be hard to get to that $500,000 premium level. So I'm on a mission to get there within this next year. So in addition to the upfront savings, it's on the average, you'll see that safety groups pay between 20 and 25%. And that's in addition to the upfront discount. So when you look at the bottom line, this becomes a great member benefit that the association has just developed for you. Yeah, and if you're in a safety group and you have a bad year, again, the dividends are based upon the group, not on your individual experience. So you could have a couple of work comp losses and still qualify for the dividend. So, you know, there's a nice safety net in this program as well. Because a lot of commercial insurance carriers, you have one loss and you may not, they may not renew your coverage the following year. Because the state fund, this is what they do, they're in this business for the long haul. And you know, this is a slide that I put in there just to show the difference between the direct cost and the indirect cost. So, you know, you have an employee that gets injured, you know, they drop a keg on their foot and they're out of work for a week. Well, you know, they're going to have their medical wages covered under comp and their lost wages. But really the indirect cost, the lost time, the extra employees that you have to now shovel over to pick up the slack on that employee being out, creates costs 3 to 5 times what the actual workers' comp claim could be. So that's why focusing on safety becomes such a big part of what this program is about. So eligibility for the workers' comp safety group is through GKG. We set this up as a closed program, meaning it's not open to any other agents in New York State. It's also a closed program. You must be a member of the New York State Brewers Association in order to participate in the program. So it includes the upfront best in market pricing, the dividend eligibility, access to the safety resources, which is a critical part of what we're doing as well. So even though we've launched this safety group, we are tying in the safety resources that we now have available through the alliance that's been created with the New York State Brewers Association. So safety becomes a big part of this as well. So the two go together. But in addition to the workers' comp, we do have a carrier that will also offer some additional credits on the package, the auto, the umbrella. So we really have now created an all lines program that's specific and unique for the members of the association. So I welcome, you know, any discussions, questions you have. I can show you how it works offline. And I think that's it. So, you know, I'd love to be able to help you out and become your agent and grow this great program for the association. Cheers. Anybody have any questions?
We're going to take questions.
Okay, okay.
So hello everyone, my name is Nick D'Onofrio and I'm a compliance assistant specialist with OSHA. What does that mean? Well, it means that I'm not enforcement. I'm not here to take names and come out and do an inspection. I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. If you believe that, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn I can sell you. But compliance assistance is about outreach, training, education, information, and just to kind of demystify OSHA a little bit and help you better understand what OSHA is trying to do in the workplace. Put the disclaimer in. This was written by our attorneys. We're required to put this in. Basically, what I'm going to tell you today is for educational purposes and to inform you. Doesn't require you to do anything different than you're doing now, but hopefully I can shed some light on some things you might have about, some questions you might have about OSHA. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am not a career bureaucrat. I did spend about 20 years in private industry. I worked in the chemical industry, and I've been with OSHA about 18 years. I did spend 15 years in the field as an inspector, and then in 2019, I became a compliance assistant specialist. So OSHA is over 50 years old. It was founded or or enacted in 1970. Richard Nixon signed it into law, and we began inspections in 1971. Guess I should put my glasses on, that helps. So again, our mission, ensure a safe and healthy workplace for all workers by setting standards and enforcing them. Workers have rights. They have the right to be trained in a language that they understand. They have a right to protective equipment. They also have a right to be free from any retaliation. So it is against the law for an employer to take any retaliatory action against an employee that's engaged in a safety activity. And that could be bringing up a safety issue, a safety complaint, requesting personal protective equipment, and it's called whistleblower protection, right? We've all heard that term. Many federal regulations have whistleblower protection. The OSHA Act is not unlike many federal regulations. It has that whistleblower protection for all employees. And then employers have responsibilities, right, to train employees and, again, bottom line, provide a safe and healthy workplace. Who's covered? So when the OSHA Act was put forth, states were given the opportunity to either have the federal government enforce workplace safety or take that responsibility on at the state level. It's kind of true to form. About half the states have federal OSHA to enforce workplace safety, and the other half have a state plan, what we call. The state enforces it. And then there's a couple oddball states. Of course, New York is one of those. In New York, federal OSHA enforces workplace safety for private sector, and Department of Labor, New York State Department of Labor enforces it for government workers, state workers, I should say. This is just a map of New York, the New York State. This is where our area offices are located. Upstate, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, kind of the thruway, the largest geographic area, and then where the population density is downstate, we have 4 offices downstate. So what is our vision? So if you ask people what they value most in life, people will say, hey, it's the safety and health of our loved ones, people that we love. But all too often, that love for people, right, that core value, doesn't get transferred to the workplace, right? A lot of employers don't see that when they look at their employees. Some do, some don't. Our goal is really to make safety a core value for all employers. I always used to chuckle when I went out and to do inspections. Most employers would say to me, you know, safety is a priority with us. And I always kind of had a little grin on my face. Why do you think I had that grin, that smile, when they said safety is a priority? So what's a priority at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon when an order comes in and you got to go in the warehouse and find that order? What's the priority then? Is it safety or is it meeting customer demand? So when you make safety a core value, it becomes part of the way you do business, right? As opposed to a priority, because priorities change based on demand. So we can categorize, generally speaking, employers into 3 groups. At one end of the spectrum is those employees that have safety as a core value, make safety part of their culture. We want to hold those companies up as models for other companies to emulate. And we have programs that actually reward those companies. Most employers want to do the right thing, that middle group, right? But they just need a little help, a little bit of resources, a little bit of pushing, nudging, and just a better understanding. That's where most employers fall, right? And we want to be there for them, right? Compliance assistant, consultation is there. We want to provide resources to help them move to that, you know, that upper level, if you will, of the chart, right? And then there's those businesses at the bottom that really just see safety as something extra they need to do. And OSHA deals with them primarily through enforcement, right? Through the old stick approach, right? But we'd rather use the carrot, and we'd rather try to move people to that end where safety is a core value for them. So I always ask this question, how many people, when you think of OSHA, think of enforcement, penalties, citations, and it's generally going to be a bad day? Or raise your hand. Everybody, I have to assume. So how many people, when you think of OSHA, think of compliance assistance, education, information, and being a resource? Probably very few people think about it. But really, OSHA is more than just enforcement. That's probably our most visible aspect, but again, we're about compliance assistance, and we promote consultation and cooperative programs. So what is compliance assistance? What do I do? Well, we provide information about our standards with the intent of preventing injuries, right? We provide assistance. These are just some stats: 250,000 phone calls, 12,000 emails, and we conduct our on-site consultation people conduct 24,000 visits each year. These are some of the programs that we have to lift up companies and kind of hold that carrot out. Alliance programs that we have with the New York State Brewers Associations. VPP, Voluntary Protection Program, is a program for those employers that have low injury rates and good safety programs. When you're in VPP, that gets you out of programmed or regular inspections. So that's the benefit for VPP. We did sign an alliance with the New York State Brewers Association, the Master Brewers of America, and the Brewers Association, and New York State Department of Labor consultation back in November. What is the purpose of alliance? Well, it's to work cooperatively with each other, share resources, raise awareness about what's happening with OSHA, with our rulemaking, what's coming down the line, what can we expect OSHA to pay attention to, and have regulations about in the future. It's about training and education, and again, it's about outreach and communications. Our bottom line effort, and I think Ian said this appropriately, it's to support brewers' efforts to improve workplace safety and health. I thought that was a great quote, Ian. So how can we help? We have a small business webpage on osha.gov/small business. These are some of the resources we have. COVID-19 was big a few years ago. We had a lot of resources on that. We have basic information on how to set up a safety program within your company. We also have a tremendous amount of publications. I have some here on the table that you're more than welcome to take, or you can download on our website, from everything from literally A to Z. And then we also offer a service twice a month where we will send you information on, again, what's hot, what's going on with OSHA. It's called our Quick Takes. We have about 200,000 subscribers there. Each year we have these certain outreach events to highlight particular hazards in particular industries. A couple of these are coming up. Work zone safety, primarily focused on traffic safety, those employees that have to work on our roadways to make improvements and to improve highways. Fall prevention stand-down. Falls are the #1 cause of fatalities in the construction industry. So these weeks we focus on those particular hazards in those particular industries, and we have resources available, and we encourage employers to hold safety meetings that week to focus on these topics. So what other things do we focus on in 2023? Well, you can expect to see a national emphasis program on warehousing, specifically looking at fork trucks, right? And also proper storage and handling of materials and packaging. Also, we're focusing on heat as a hazard in the workplace. We have a national emphasis program on heat. If heat is a hazard in your workplace, we expect you and encourage you to develop a program to train your employees and supervisors on recognizing heat and how to prevent heat illness. And quite simply, that is water, rest, and shade. And then you can expect to see a COVID standard that primarily targets or affects the healthcare industry. Let me just briefly review our top 10 violations across all industries for last fiscal year. The numbers indicate their ranking in 2001. Green numbers mean the number of citations are up. The red numbers mean the citations were down from year over year. A couple things to point out about this. 40% of these involve fall protection, fall hazards. #1 is fall protection. The other thing to point out is hazard communication. Consistently, year in and year out, hazard communication appears in the top 10. So what is hazard communication? It's communicating to your employees what the hazards are of the chemicals that they're working with. So you need to have a written program, you need to have safety data sheets, and you need to provide effective training for your employees so that they know the hazards of the chemicals that they're working with. Let's talk specifically about breweries and the brewing industry. This is from last fiscal year up to March 1st of this year. And this is across the entire spectrum of OSHA, federal OSHA throughout the United States. There were 37 inspections of breweries since October 1st of 2021. 11 of those were in Colorado, so about a third were in Colorado. Only 2 were in New York State. And what are we looking for? What did we find? Well, there again, there's HAZCOM. 14 of those inspections, 14 of those inspections we cited hazard communication, followed by lockout, confined space, there's powered industrial trucks, and first aid. The average number of citations per inspection was around 2, and the average penalty was about 3,600. And that's a pretty big number if you're a small brewery, right? OSHA is not in, despite what you think or what your perception might be, OSHA is not in the business of putting employers out of business. Our goal is to identify hazards and get employers to correct those hazards to protect employees. We can't make the penalty 0 in a lot of cases, depending on what the hazard is, particularly if it's a high hazard like falls, lockout, tagout, machine guarding, but we can work with you on reducing those penalties. And again, we have a sliding scale. If you're a small employer, less than 10 employees, you get up to 60% off of the penalty that we would assess if we found a violation. So again, OSHA is not in the business of putting employers out of business, and we can work with you on the penalties. I talked about heat just briefly. Each year, about 40 people die from heat-related illness in an occupational setting. And we think that number is underreported because a lot of times heat illness gets misdiagnosed. It's either a heart attack or maybe some other type of illness. But heat is definitely a real killer. And it's a killer in New York State. When you think of heat as a hazard, you think of Arizona, Texas. But I have to tell you, I'm out of the Buffalo area office, and we had a heat fatality about 2 or 3 years ago. A 32-year-old construction worker, second day on the job. It was a hot day in July, strange as it might sound, in western New York. It was in the 90s. No water. It was a bridge project, a 100-yard bridge, water at one end, no shade, no breaks. You know, the first week or so, the first few days on the job, a new employee wants to prove their mettle, right? They don't want to take breaks. They want to prove to the boss that they belong. No one watched over this individual. No one was communicating with them, and that's important because the first sign of heat illness is mental confusion. So all the signs were missed. Second day on the job, he collapsed by his truck and was dead that afternoon. His name was Tim Barber. If you go on YouTube, Remembering Tim, you can see his the circumstances of his unfortunate incident played out there. And his dad recounts those last couple of days of Tim's life. So what are we doing? Well, we have a whole section on OSHA.gov/heat on preventing heat illnesses. And in the next few weeks, we're going to be rolling out a Beat the Heat contest where we're going to be asking our stakeholders to help us raise awareness about heat. You can design a logo, you can create a booklet, you can use a social media toolkit, use a catchphrase or develop a catchphrase. Our goal is to educate stakeholders and raise awareness with employers and employees about the hazards of heat. We also obviously want to prevent heat illness. We want to highlight the dangers. And one of the goals, another goal, is to motivate employers and workers to take action to protect themselves against heat. So that's just kind of an overview of OSHA, and I'll stick around, obviously, at the end to answer any questions. There's my contact information, and I would encourage you to come up and take some of these free booklets we have here. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Mike Capelli from the New York State Department of Labor Consultation. Mike?
Thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michael Capelli. I work for the New York State Department of Labor. Your tax dollars at work for you. What we do is we present safety and health consultation services free of charge and confidentially to small employers in New York State. The beer industry is growing in New York State. We have new breweries coming up in all sorts of areas. New York State Department of Labor has 9 different locations or 9 different offices to service the whole area. I think the brewers have 3 major regions on the west part, the central New York, and then the New York City area. So there are offices that you could reach out to and ask for our services. Like again, our services are free and confidential. And we provide services to a small business that might not know about safety, that might know all about beer. But when it comes down to what do I need to have in place in my workplace to make sure that I'm providing a safe workplace? Well, OSHA says it's your responsibility as an employer to provide a safe workplace. But how do I find out the information of what I need to be doing to keep my people safe? I know how to make beer. I know all the equipment. I want to hire some people to help me make beer. What do I do next? You can reach out to any of these offices. There's 9 offices in New York State. Give us a call. Say, hey, I got a new brewery. I got this many employees. I'd just like to find out what you have to offer. We can offer limited services to small employers. We can offer wall-to-wall services to small employers. Anything from how do I do my injury and illness record keeping, the forms, how to train your administrative staff to do that, how to have those safety programs in place in your work center to make sure that they're comprehensive. Some of the things that Nick had mentioned were like hazard communication. I'm making beer. What kind of hazard communication do I have? You may be bottling or recycling kegs, and you clean those out, and you might use chemicals. That's an idea of where you might be exposed to having to have a hazard communication program. We can come in and help you establish a written hazard communication program that's comprehensive, not missing any elements, and that's free on us. We provide you the service in your workplace. We're working for you, so you can control the scope of the survey when we're coming to visit you. And when you're working with the New York State Department of Labor on an active agreement, OSHA wouldn't come in and bother you. They might come to visit you while you're working with us, and you might say, hey, we're working with New York State Department of Labor, and they might say, do you have an active agreement? You say, yeah, I'm working with Mike Capelli over in Binghamton area, or I might be working with Greg Mazikowski out in the Buffalo area. And they'll say, okay, great. That's great that you're working with New York State Department of Labor. I'm sure they're going to take good care of you and give you the services that you need. And then when they come back around, they're gonna go to somebody else that hasn't gotten with them. So that's one of the assets about working with New York State Department of Labor. Like I said, there's 9 of us. There's 9 offices in New York State. We're available to come out to your breweries. So there's 9 offices serving you guys. We're funded by OSHA. We're free to you. We're confidential. When we come to visit you, you're going to get a written report. The written report's going to talk about how you're doing with injuries and illnesses compared to the national average. We'll do a free site assessment. We'll review your programs, like I said. If you're missing programs, we have template programs. We'll help you establish your programs. If you have programs in place, we can review your programs to make sure you're not missing any elements. We might identify where employees might need training. We can offer training assistance free of no charge to you folks. We've offered training in things such as forklift. We've offered training in hazard communication, hazardous engine control, lockout, tagout, program administration. So we're offering these programs free of charge to New York State businesses. Please give us a call, give us a chance to service you guys. Like I said, there's 9 offices, and we have worked with companies, but when we work with a company, like I said, we're confidential, so I can't tell you about the last person I worked with that's in your industry. I can give you like a case. I went with this one employer and he had this going on, and this is what we did to help that employer. Types of hazards that I've identified in breweries, if you're interested, maybe a hazard communication where they didn't realize they had to mark containers that have chemicals in them, or they didn't realize they had to have safety data sheets on site. Or they might have had an employee lift, and they had an employee in a man basket, and he had a harness, and then he unharnessed while he was on top of one of the brew silos where they had the bright beer or what have you in it, and he took his lanyard off and he reattached it to a place that wasn't an attachment point. That could have led to a fall in the workplace, and the employee probably just did not realize that the point that he was using to attach to was not an approved attachment point, and that he was in jeopardy of having a fall hazard. So we like to come in and help employers look over what their tasks are, what their employees are exposed to, help them ensure that they have those programs in place, they're comprehensive, and then if the employer has training needs, we like to service employers like that. Our services are free and confidential, and you can't beat free. So I'm Mike Capelli. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys. I want to show you this quick little video about our program, so you know what's going on. Oh no, I'm gonna go back one, push the button.
You can also tap it on the screen.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna do that. Yes, ma'am. It's working over here. Pause it. It's a quickie, so I'm gonna skip the ad, and then, now I'll pause it.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
New York State offers free safety and health consultation services to primarily small and medium-sized industries. We have safety consultants and we have industrial hygienists.
I think the program is a no-brainer. I mean, like I said, the cost you can't beat. It's free, and anything you have to keep your employees safe, especially nowadays where safety, I think, is a concern to the employees. To get your workforce and your workplace up to speed from an OSHA point of view at a free cost, to me, is a no-brainer.
I don't want to be gambling on my employees' health. If I had somebody who lost a hand because we have a safe operation, that would really be a terrible thing. This lets me go to bed at night and feel like I've done all the things I can do to create a safe place. A lot of our services also involve training and also analysis like air quality tests, and that's all free charge for our program. I'll pull in a Department of Labor for again, we'll truck training or have a conversation about a chemical or send them an NYSBA sheet that we need looked at. No charge. Everything is free, and they come back with great information to make sure our employees are safe and the workforce is where they need it to be on a safety level. I would recommend this for a business that wants to be a well-run business, and I know our employees appreciate the fact that we work to make this a safe environment.
Employees who are healthy are happier, and employees who are happier are more productive. It behooves a company to invest in safety.
So I'm going to turn that off. Don't know how to turn that off. One of the things I didn't get to tell you folks is that I'm a safety consultant, and we also have industrial hygienists, and they talk a little bit about the industrial hygiene side. Now, the industrial hygiene side is important to the breweries because you may have processes that have air quality hazards, like when you're off-gassing your tanks, depending on the volume of the room or the tank size that you're off-gassing, you could displace oxygen in that area and create an unsafe atmosphere. So one of the things that we come in and we work with employers, we talk about these hazards that are new to some of the people that you're hiring. So we have an on-site consultation staff that does industrial hygiene things. They can monitor noise levels during canning operations, bottling operations. They can do air sampling to make sure that any of your processes that might create an unsafe breathing atmosphere, that you're identifying those things, you're providing your employees training, also give you some ideas how to engineer that out or administratively make your workplaces safe. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today. My name's Michael Capelli. We have a booth upstairs. We're handing out these cards. I'd love to get the chance to talk if you have any questions at all. I'm going to be here for the next 2 days. I've had a nice time today. A lot of good people here. And thank you once again for coming today.
Well, first I'm going to put some questions out to the floor if anybody has any specific questions related to any of our speakers right now. And if not, I mean, I personally did go through the on-site consultation experience. I may have been sitting in that chair in this room a year ago when I reluctantly raised my arm as I guess I don't want to say a guinea pig, but going through it to see what it was all about. And so, yes, we heard it was free, and that is indeed true. And so Mike and his team came through and went through our brewery, and we learned a lot that day. We were able to get everything in order as far as our HASCOM, forklift training, dealing with anything as far as the CO2 levels. We even went through our noise levels for when our mobile canning unit showed up. So we were able to hit on all the areas that stood out when they first did their on-site consultation. Yeah, it was a great experience, very simple, very informative. I encourage everybody to do it. I mean, outside of the potential dividends and savings and being part of the workers' comp program, I mean, safety is ultimately the most important thing. So we should have probably given out more free beer outside to get more people to come in to just even hear what we have to say, but at least it's recorded and people will be able to watch this. And this is only the beginning for us, and so you guys will talk with us over the next 36 hours and learn a little bit more about what we're trying to do and help make our breweries a little bit safer. So I appreciate you coming. That's it.
Any questions?
So what are the workers' comp safety group, what are next steps? Like how do we get involved?
I could meet with you. I mean, the program is ready to go. We haven't set a launch date yet, but we're getting very close to it. I would like to say it's going to be 4/1, but I can't officially say that yet. But on that date, or whatever the launch date is, we could begin writing members in that group. So I would meet with you, take a look at your program, show you what we can do compared to what you have, show you the services that are included in the program, the safety side of it. And then if it's if it's the right decision for you, then yes, we can write your coverage in the program. Yep. Yep.
Our program's going any day, anytime. You can call me anytime you like. You can call any of our 9 offices anytime you like. We're independent. We're New York State Department of Labor. We're here to service you guys. We want you safe right now, today. So you don't need to wait to call us.
One thing Mike I'd like to mention also,
This is Jeff Conboy. He was in the movie.
hold on, if I can get it, hold on. Anyway, one thing I'd like to mention is things that they mentioned here, Mike and Nick were talking about, things like air quality and air monitoring. As a service, we have a certified industrial hygienist come in and do that for you free of charge. If you go out in the outside world and hire or call somebody to come in and do that monitoring for you, it's going to cost you a few $1,000s. We'll do that for free. Forklift training, or industrial vehicle training. Upon request, you have a survey with us. You come in and do that for you for free. I've done those classes myself, and a lot of businesses, the requirement under OSHA is they have to be evaluated every 3 years. A lot of businesses call up and schedule it every 3 years because they appreciated what we did and how we taught their employees. And a lot of their employees end up, knowledge is something you possess, and a lot of times you hand down. When somebody new comes on site, they kind of look out for them because that's their work partner, part of their work family. So the knowledge isn't lost just on those people you're talking to. It's ingrained in them, becomes part of your safety culture.
Well, I would say that the conference, that was our 4th year we were out of New York. They have a lot of breweries here are newer, so they haven't had an incident. So until they have one, it doesn't become serious. So, and we're one. I don't know how serious as we should be about it. So there's reason there's nobody here because nobody's followed. So when they do, oh my God, it should be a big one. So everybody has which one will be absolutely full.
So I'm glad and scared at the same time that you said that, because that's the whole reason why we decided to put this alliance together is because we've been very fortunate in the industry in New York State, right, to not have an incident, but we did have Not that long ago, there was an incident in New York State. It might have been a few years ago. But we should get ahead of the curve, like, right, we should get ahead of it and put these resources out there. And safety's always, I feel like, it's always been one of those things that you like, oh, yeah, they'll figure it out later. And not put as Nick said, a horrible, like a core value. And it really should be. And there's so many times I know as a brewery, I did so many things wrong.
You were very scared to have.
Yeah. No, Fred, this is why we're trying to do this, like,
But we're
don't
scared
be
to
scared.
have because our business is trying to run.
Well, that's where it's really important where Mike is saying, like, let him put it in. There's so many fantastic resources available to get you where you need to be. All you need to say is, where do I need help?
Shit show, let's go and fix this.
But-
I can see it.
They won't say that. They'll say, and he can say, what do you need help with? Do you need help with something specific? Do you need help overall in general?
It's just to rip the Band-Aid out and say, listen, it's never gonna be our vehicle making money, it's going great. Marketing's great, it's going so good. It's really good, it's good that. You can somebody come in for free and say, thanks for this, the answer to the door.
Yep.
Because, so they got, actually run the door for free, so that's right.
But it becomes a priority when you have someone there to help you construct it, right? And show you what to do. Correct.
My point is, there's so many new breweries here that they haven't had a chance to have it. And it's,
What we need more people like Ian who have done it to say, it was awesome, this was our experience, you need to do this. And then the more people that walk into it, the more people will do it. And so right now what we're trying to do is to get those breweries to experience what Hare did and realize the benefit of what we're trying to do.
you're talking about a brewery that started way, most of it started super tiny. And all of a sudden, they made a lot of work, but you did this one, these things like that. It's not
As a consultant, I'm working in the field with people, it's sort of like Dave is mentioning insurance. This is a way to have it in without sharing information with anybody else, just the consultant and you. Our consultants train at the Institute of Arlington Heights alongside the coaches who actually go to the site. It's like we're both looking in the distance, and we have the aim of safety, only there's a giant fence between us because we can't share information. So we're sitting in the same classrooms, learning the same things. Only as a consultant, my job is different. My job, is to help you, is to go to your business, look at it, put myself in our shoes. This was my place. How would I protect myself? And I take that, look at things that are going on here, using my knowledge that I've gained, that I've learned through experience. I relate that to you and help you. It could be a one-time visit, it could be multiple times. So, for instance, I discovered during the visit that the certified forklifts. Hey, we offer that training. Would you like to take us up on it? It's free. So it works though.
Well, the whole my tone was, you want to protect your employee, but you're protecting the face.
Yeah,
Somebody,
definitely.
because we're still early, most people work for us, it's still time. The lady her career, they lost their phone.
And we're told that like when you do that, it's greater longevity for your you're making a safe fuel.
Good job. The size of these businesses and these breweries, you have to extend family, it's your family.
And we have a safety resource page on the NewYorkCraftBeer.com website, which lists this information as well. So you can call Mike, get a hold of him if you want to sign up. You can also go up and see all of them. They're upstairs at booth 36 too, so if you do want to sign up and take advantage of this,
It's by the restrooms also.
yeah, please do. It's like he said, that it's happening, it's gonna continue to happen. If you do take advantage of it, please reach out to Ann or I, because we would love to, ask you, like, your experience. So he's not the only one talking about it as we continue to, forge through and, try to put these resources out there to make our community stronger and safer. And, get them on board, more breweries on board. We'd love to get your experience. Even if you were to type up a quick sentence and just say how it was, would be really, really grateful. I feel like I was talking a lot, I'm sorry. One beer went to my head. Does anyone have any questions?
And I'll share my entire experience that I went through, all the
Yeah,
paperwork.
it's actually-
It's online, like, you have my contact information. So, yeah, just let me know. Now it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and if you want another Utica club before you go out there, no one else has any.
We got the new seats. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. All right.